Asteroids may have stolen Earth's oxygen from our planet's ancient atmosphere, according to new research from a period of Earth's history from about 2.5 to 4 billion years ago. Our Earth was a punching bag for asteroids, and we have a lot of scars on Earth showing this. During this time, Earth was absolutely pelted with large space rocks. Compared to the relatively quiet of today's existence, this activity would have produced significant alterations and changes to the chemistry of our atmosphere. But the scale and shape of those alterations, especially the effect on oxygen levels, has been difficult to evaluate. And now a study of tiny, once molten particles in Earth's crust reveals that these asteroid impacts were far more numerous than we thought, which may have delayed the oxygenation of Earth's atmosphere. These particles are called impact spherules. They're created when an asteroid slams into our Earth, generating intense heat that the crust melts and sprays into the air. And when these materials settle and cools and hardens, it forms a layer of spherules on the planet's crust. Recently, far more of these spherules have been unearthed in drill cores and excavations, and that means that in turn the asteroid collisions rate may be 10 times higher than previously thought. This would have had a much more significant effect on our Earth's atmosphere, our oxygen levels, than previous models thought. Current bombardment models underestimate the number of late Archean spherule layers. This is what planetary geologist Simon Marchi of Southwest Research Institute says. This suggests the impact reflux at that time was up to 10 times higher than previously thought. All of this extra rock from space generates chemistry that results in a lot more oxygen being held back from our atmosphere. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. Current bombardment models underestimate the number of late Archean spherules. The impact reflux at that time was up to 10 times higher than previously thought, and all of this extra rock from space generates chemistry, and that results in a lot more oxygen being held back from our atmosphere, they said. How, when, and why Earth's atmosphere became rich with oxygen is important to our understanding of planet's habitability. Most multicellular organisms on Earth cannot live, of course, without oxygen. Without it, we probably would not be here. So for reasons not fully understood, oxygen levels did not start to significantly rise in what we call the Great Oxidation of Earth until the emergence of photosynthesizing cyanobacteria on the scene about 2.4 billion years ago. Asteroid bombardment, the team's new analysis says, could have been one of the mechanisms at play preventing oxygen levels from rising on Earth, and as space rocks repeatedly slammed into our Earth, their impact vapors would have removed the limited amounts of oxygen present in early Earth's atmosphere. Late Archean bombardment, by objects over 6 miles in diameter, so they were huge obviously, would have produced enough reactive gases to completely consume low levels of atmospheric oxygen. This is what geologist and astronomer Laura Schaefer of Stanford University says. She says this pattern was consistent with evidence for so-called whiffs of oxygen, repeatedly steep but transient increases in atmospheric oxygen that occurred about 2.5 billion years ago. And she says we think that whiffs were broken up by impacts that removed the oxygen from our atmosphere, and this is consistent with large impacts recorded by spherule layers in Australia's Bee Gorge and Dales Gorge. So this new analysis by the team concerning the spherule layers challenges previous impact models. It scales up the intensity of collisions, and it finds that an asteroid larger than 6 miles across would have hit Earth once every 15 million years or so. I mean, that's a lot. So that may seem infrequent, but geologically speaking, that's a lot of big asteroids, and 10 times more frequent than we believed. Modeling then reveals the cumulative oxygen sink effects that these impacts had. Only once bombardment slowed did oxygen levels start to rise, changing Earth's surface chemistry and thus transforming the planet into a habitable world that we have today. This, the scientists believe, is no coincidence. Marchi said impact vapors caused episodic low oxygen levels for large spans of time preceding the Great Oxidation event. And she said as we went on, collisions became progressively less frequent and too small to be able to significantly alter post-Great Oxidation event oxygen levels. The scientists said the Earth was on its course to becoming our current planet. This was on Nature Geoscience and Science Alert by Michael Starr. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support.